Hello and welcome to Beyond the Bio. This week, I'm joined by Evan Boyer, founder and CEO of Leaders PR. After almost 15 years advising everyone from global brands including JPMorgan Chase, EY, LG and Volvo Trucks through to ambitious challenger businesses, Evan has built a career helping organizations earn attention rather than simply buying it. In this episode, we are exploring why credibility and expertise aren't the same thing, why earned media matters more than ever in an AI world, and what happens behind the scenes of successful PR campaigns. Evan, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Sophie. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, excited for our conversation. So, Evan, beyond the bio, who is Evan? Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Sure. Well, we just had a conversation about where I live. So I'm in North Carolina in the U.S. South, and I have lived in some other places across the U.S., but have worked in PR agency world my whole career. So I've been at boutique shops, mid-sized shops, and then a very large agency before starting out on my own. And then I love PR and communications and would consider myself a lifer. And then outside of that, obviously in North Carolina here with my family, I've got two young girls, 4 and 1, and a lovely wife who has supported me through the last year of being an entrepreneur, which has been quite an adventure.
So, is your business quite new then?
Only a year old, yeah.
Exciting. What made you take the leap to go out and set up on your own?
A couple different things, but I think, like relevant to the conversation that we're going to have today. I was just seeing, you mentioned some of the large companies that I've supported, and I was just seeing so much incredible um, intellect, insight, experience, all of these things from leaders and mid-level managers even across these organizations, and their ability to share their own story and create really compelling messages was in a lot of cases almost non-existent. And so I thought if I went out on my own and started something, I could get to more of these people and help some of those really incredible leaders be able to share their story. And, like we talked about, so many of these folks have great expertise, but they don't have the credibility to match. So how can we help to solve that problem?
And how's it going? Are you glad you made the leap, or is it still too early to say?
No, 100%. It's exceeded every expectation. People, I think, use the word generalist. They'll throw that around for PR agency folks, but I really like the variety, being involved in learning in different industries, whether that's finance or professional services or healthcare or tech. Keeps my brain kind of turning, and I love being able to take the lessons from one project or one industry and applying.
Great, lots to get stuck into, isn't there? So you say that exceptional communications is what allows the people who are meant to lead. What do you mean by that?
I mean, exactly what I just said. I think there are so many folks there with great ideas or great ambition or both, and their ability to communicate, to frame a compelling message is probably not at a level that matches their expertise and experience. But if they do find that, and that's the really exciting thing, is when you match those two things up, I've seen so many folks just take off as leaders. They're more respected within their own organizations. They're more sought after from an external point of view. People are coming to them and asking for their opinions, asking them to participate in conversations and be in rooms that they would otherwise not be in.
And I guess following on from that, you make a really valid point around expertise and credibility being built separately. Can you explain the difference for us?
I think I think accomplished professional will go through their career and continue to build expertise, and those are the reps that you need to be able to do your job well and really know your stuff. But there's a leap there. Expertise is only really going to take you so far. You could be the most accomplished or technically sound person in your organization, but if you're not visible to the rest of your organization or your industry or the market that you're in, that expertise is only going to get you to a certain point. So the leap forward to I'm a credible expert, and look at how I have positioned myself externally to, like we talked about, participate in conversations, be in rooms with other leaders, have unique perspectives and opinions. That's really the differentiator, and it takes time to build that. I'm interested to see. One of the things that I think about often is our younger generation. I think has a much clearer beat on that, and they're getting started with building credibility earlier in their careers. So I'm really interested to see 10, 15, 20 years from now how are college graduates today or young people today going to show up in the world. So I feel like a lot of the uh, millennial, Gen Y, boomer population is still trying to do a little bit catch up.
Yeah. And do you find that you're having to sort of persuade and influence those older leaders to be a bit more visible? They kind of want to hide a bit more behind the company brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just with a really great client yesterday, a group of their executive leaders, and the head guy basically said we did a media training, and the head guy basically said, I have so many other things on my plate throughout the day. I have to run this business. I have to talk to the finance team. I have to go out and make sure our clients are well taken care of. All of these things, and here we are spending time talking about how I perform in a media interview. I don't consider that to be the highest thing on my priority list. And so, yeah, I absolutely understand where he's coming from, but I think the effect that that can have, being an effective communicator, can trickle down into all of these other areas of his business and allow him to be, seen as more credible, more respected, and more effective.
So did you persuade him?
I think so. I think we had a good chat at the end of the day, and I think he appreciated the approach. And one of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about too is where PR and earned credibility sits in this new AI ecosystem. And we talked about, if you want to call it GEO or AEO, AI search, and how you show up in some of those in those ways. I think that was very interesting to him and the team, and it's very new and still developing. But I was saying to him, this is one of the things that I, as a PR pro, am really nerding out about right.
We all know that AI has made it easier than ever to create content. How good that content is in terms of our personal brands, it is up for debate. But would you say that's made PR less valuable or more valuable?
More. It's a complicated question. I think in the way that some people think about it, you mentioned the content thing.
Yeah.
I think if that goes down a path where everybody just leans into developing volumes of content that are AI generated, I think that that has the potential to make PR less valuable. But there's this whole other world there that if it's, as you know, if and when it's done well, it can really have some outsized impacts. And now seeing how AI search works, I mean, part of the discussion, like I said with my client yesterday, was there is no ad spot in AI search right now. These engines are citing earned sources, and some statistics show as much as 90% of the time they're sourcing earned sources for the models or the answers in the models, which is just unbelievable to me. And I showed them an example, and they couldn't believe it. This is the only way to get into AI search, and it's like it may not be the only way, but it does seem to be the best and most effective.
I had my first personal win with AI search a week or so ago, where an event organizer got in touch with me from London to book me to speak at one of their it's like a kind of inspiring women's lunch in London, and they've got one in Manchester as well. I'm probably going to do both of them. And I always say, where did you hear about me if it's someone that I've not come across before? And she said, oh, you came up on AI. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So,
Yeah.
getting a direct booking to speak at an event from that was very cool. I was like, yes, this is why we need to do all these things. So that was good. So you just touched on it before there around earning attention, getting that kind of earned media, and you talk about earning this attention rather than buying it. What are you seeing there in terms of that long-term impact between earning and buying attention?
Yeah, it still shocks me, honestly, from time to time when I look at a client's marketing mix and I see how many dollars they're pumping into paid advertising, paid social, all of these things, because it literally is a switch of a button. You switch it on and you switch it off. And when you switch it off, it goes away and nobody sees that again. I think there are some, uh, that in mind, I think there are some outstanding uh, advertising campaigns that have stood the test of time and been very memorable. But by and large, what everybody is doing in the paid space is not a substitute earning credibility. And I think for those who aren't in our world or our ecosystem, so to speak, it's easier for them to say, okay, well, I'm just going to throw money at this. I'm going to pay $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is to do paid ads, and hopefully that drives business for me. But the minute they flick the switch off, uh, they lose the thing that they were trying to build. Whereas, I was talking to again my clients I was with yesterday as um, we may not be able to just do this amazing push of volume and coverage from day one or from like the moment that your head guy says go. But if we can do a drip of it over time, that forms a really strong foundation for our brand that is going to obviously show up in these AI engines, search engines, in SEO, and across the internet. And that's the sort of thing that's going to stand the test of time, I think,
Mm.
versus just throwing money at something and saying, okay, we're gonna pour our money into advertising. The results are not the same.
And with and I'm going to show my lack of tech expertise and knowledge here, but with ads, if those ads were live now and someone's doing some sort of AI search, would it pull through any of the information from the ads if they were live?
Yeah, so not as much. And in that, well, I just mentioned 90% of um, cited sources in AI search are earned. That's not, I didn't make that number up. That's from a Muckrack report. So Muckrack is a leading PR and media database. They do a generative AI pulse report, I think is the name of it. And so this is data out of millions of searches and citations that they've put together to see that earned media is taking the lion's share of the credit there. I think paid advertising has a small slice, but it's
Okay.
by comparison, it's a very small.
And like you say, when you turn it off, then that obviously just disappears anyway in that moment in time. Whereas, if you have an article placed somewhere, that sits there, for forever or for a very long time. So that's where it's pulling this stuff from. So yeah, that does make sense. Um, when with PR, there is often a perception about having the right contacts, which I think is fair. How much do you feel success comes down to those relationships versus having something that is actually just worth talking about generally? Like, do you think it's more on the relationship side or more on the story side? You're probably going to tell me we need both, but where are you leaning on that?
I lean really far away from, I think you need solid relationships to have an effective PR program or be a good PR person.
Hmm.
And like you indicated, that question comes up a lot. I was on a call last week with a prospect and straight up, who do you know? Who do you know in our industry? If I asked you to start today, who would you be able to call up and talk to? And I think that question is really misguided. I think it's one of the huge opportunities for me as a solo practitioner and a lot of other fractional PR consultants or independents is um, not the people that we know, but our ability to build relationships. So, as an example, I got into a couple pieces of business when I first started a year ago in the HR tech space. No relationships in HR tech. Never worked with an HR tech client before. And by the the one client, by the end of a 6-month term, they had gone from a roughly 6% share of voice in their industry to triple that. And of their competitive set, which was 7 or 8 companies, that represented a jump from last to first, how they
Wow.
were showing up in earned media. So that happened as a result of my ability to tell great stories and build good relationships without ever having had that set out for me or previous work in that space. So it definitely is possible. And I know that I'm not the only one who is capable of doing that or is currently doing that. I think it's a mindset shift, though, especially on the client side, to say we need somebody who is a great storyteller and can connect human to human with reporters. I think that that's especially in the world of AI slop, right? I've seen so many reporters talk about this is the new spam in my inbox. And I'm just trying to have a conversation. I think phone calls might come back
Yeah.
as a way
Yeah.
to
True.
get in touch with reporters and get their attention much more than emails in the future.
Yeah, I think you could be right with that. Definitely. Leading on from that, you talk about the reality of PR being that research, patience, and obviously relationships. What's something that you think people don't appreciate about that work that happens behind the scenes? Because it does take time to do all of those things, right?
Yeah, the research part in particular, I think stands out to a lot of people. If I open up the hood for them, I did a couple months ago. I did a narrative and positioning work for a client. Said this is great. How do we turn this into earned coverage? We need some PR support. Well, you have to look at who is your audience, and then what media are they consuming, and then we're building lists of those media, and then we're reading what these reporters have written, or going on their Substack pages, or listening to their podcasts, and then from there, it's about being a good writer and a good storyteller, and being able to churn out some of these pitches, and then facilitate once you get a bite, right? Facilitating the whole process of the interview and the follow up and the placement. What do you do after that? It's a huge list of things that we do. And I think people think like, oh, I'm just going to plug you in and you're going to get stories for us. And that's the beginning and the end, when it really is this whole ecosystem. But the research in particular, the marketing manager at this company said, I, I see the process and I understand the process. I don't have time to dig in at the level of depth that we would need to be successful. I said, absolutely, which is why I and people like me exist.
Perfect. Yeah, good. Well, it's good that you've got the client that gets it, because that's huge, isn't it? Now, you've worked with some huge brands as well as startups. What do you find separates the businesses that consistently get recognized from those that don't get a bite?
Yeah, well, consistency. Um, just and a couple episodes ago, I think it was Victoria you had on, and she talked about consistency is not 100% all the time. It's like some days it's 10%. It's just a little bit. I think the companies that can recognize that, understand it, and just like we talked about, a little bit of a drip, right? In some of those moments where you don't have a huge event or an announcement coming up and things like that, and just dripping into how can we help build this foundation a little bit higher, a little bit stronger over time. Obviously, large organizations have the resources to be able to do that more effectively, but I also don't think that it costs a significant amount of money to have a PR program for your startup or small organization that can also create that drip, build that foundation as you're growing your company.
Mm. I love that, because we do talk a lot on the show about consistency being key to everything. And what we see with some of our clients is, when they pause or stop doing things that grow their their profile, you just see a dip in everything. It's like they disappear. So I really agree with that. Even during those sort of quieter times where maybe there's not as much to talk about, just doing some things and thinking about how you build all of this into your strategy so that there is that level of consistency that you can kind of ramp up and things. So I love that. Evan, it's been great talking to you. Tell us what's next for Leaders PR.
Yeah, we're a year in now, so have had some great client relationships over the past year, and looking to continue to grow and expand our business. And we really specialize in B2B PR, and that's what I've always loved to do across all of these different industries that we've talked about. So earned media coverage is kind of the bread and butter of our business. We have other services as well, but looking forward to leveling up all of it over the next year.
Exciting times. And where's the best place for people to connect with you?
Absolutely. I'm on LinkedIn, pretty active on LinkedIn, Evan Boyer, and then our website, leaderspr.com.
Amazing. We'll pop both of those links in the show notes to make it really easy for people to find you. Evan, thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Sophie.
Thank you for listening. If you're serious about growing your profile, take our free profile assessment quiz to see where you're at right now and get hints and tips on how to improve your score. You'll find the link to the quiz in the show notes. If you've enjoyed the episode, it would be mint if you'd subscribe, like, and leave a review. See you next Monday.